Inside one of the world's busiest factories, something unusual caught the attention of those present. In the middle of the factory floor in Fremont, California, a Model Y was on display in a way no one expected to see. No paint, no interior, no finish, just metal. The aluminum structure was completely exposed, with welds showing and large sections of the chassis visible to the naked eye, as if someone had ripped away everything that normally hides the car's skeleton. For most people who passed by, the first reaction was strange, as if the vehicle were unfinished or had come off the assembly line ahead of schedule. But for those who understand industrial production, that scene was much more than a curiosity. It was a statement. David Jai, responsible for concepts and prototypes at the automaker, made it clear that the objective was simple: to show how the car is really built, inside, without filters. And what that structure revealed was not just the engineering of the Model Y, but an entire manufacturing strategy that the company has been developing for years, and which is now beginning to take on a much larger dimension than any software update or new autopilot feature could offer. What was on display there was what's called gigacasting, a technique that replaces the traditional way of assembling a car's chassis. Instead of joining dozens of small metal parts through welding, the structure is formed from large blocks of cast aluminum, molded all at once. At first glance, it may seem like a technical detail of little importance to the end consumer. But when you begin to understand what this change represents in terms of cost, time, and manufacturing complexity, it becomes difficult not to pay attention. Each part eliminated from the process is one less gear that can fail, one less robot that needs to operate, one less weld that needs to be inspected. What makes this exhibition even more relevant is the timing. The second half of 2026 is approaching, and with it grows the expectation surrounding a vehicle that could completely change the game for electric cars worldwide. A more accessible model, with a price never before seen in an electric car of this category, is getting closer to becoming a reality. And the structure displayed on the floor of the Fremont factory is not just a piece of industrial museum. It is, most likely, a rehearsal of what is to come. To understand why that exposed aluminum structure matters so much, we need to take a step back and look at how a traditional car is assembled. For decades, the automotive industry has built the base of vehicles in the same way: small pieces of stamped steel, cut and shaped separately, then joined by hundreds of welds on a long, multi-step assembly line. It's a process that works, but it carries enormous complexity. A conventional underbody, which is the car's lower structure, can be composed of more than 100 different parts, each with its own supplier, its own transport, its own storage space within the factory, and its own installation step on the production line. Each of these parts needs to be welded to another, and each weld requires a robot to perform it, energy to be generated, and an inspection system to ensure it meets standards. Multiply that by 100 parts, by thousands of cars per week, and what you have is an extremely costly and highly complex operation, where any failure at one point in the chain can delay everything that comes after. It is precisely at this point that gigacasting comes in as a disruption, not as a gradual evolution, but as a change in logic. Instead of joining many small parts, everything is fused at once into a single block of aluminum. The process works as follows. Liquid aluminum is injected into a gigantic mold under high pressure, resulting in a single structural piece that replaces dozens of separate components. This mold can weigh over 2,000 tons and requires injection molding machines that are among the largest ever used in the automotive industry. The end result is a chassis section that comes out practically ready, without the need to weld piece by piece. Where before there were 50 or 60 components being joined in several workstations, now there is a single block, being positioned and fixed in far fewer steps. Reducing the number of parts directly impacts the number of robots needed on the line, the cycle time of each vehicle, and the amount of energy consumed in the process. Fewer robots mean less maintenance, fewer failures, and fewer unscheduled production stoppages. Fewer steps mean less time per unit, which translates directly into greater production capacity without needing to physically expand the factory. In certain areas of assembly, this approach can cut about 30% of the entire car structure construction process, a number that, on the scale of hundreds of thousands of vehicles per year, represents savings that far exceed what any material reduction could achieve on its own. But not everything within the gigacasting process works in a single way. There's a choice that needs to be made during the design phase, and it has direct consequences for both the vehicle's weight and the final manufacturing cost. The first option is fully integrated casting, where everything is molded together in a single piece, including the load-bearing structural areas and flat surfaces like wheel arches. This approach keeps the number of components as low as possible and simplifies the assembly line as much as possible. The problem is that, to ensure strength in all areas of the piece, the aluminum needs to be thicker, generally between 2 and 3 millimeters throughout the entire casting. This extra thickness comes at a cost that directly affects the weight. A fully integrated structure can add between 5 and 10 kilograms to the vehicle's total weight, compared to an alternative approach. For those not used to thinking in terms of automotive engineering, this may seem insignificant. 5 extra kilograms in a car weighing over 2 tons seems irrelevant. But when you understand how weight directly impacts the propulsion system and battery of an electric vehicle, this number begins to take on a completely different meaning, and the choice between one design and another ceases to be merely technical and becomes also financial. The second option separates the functions within the structure. In this model, only the skeleton that actually supports loads is made by casting, while the flat surfaces that do not need to carry structural weight are added later as thin stamped panels, less than a millimeter thick. Because these areas do not need to be robust enough to withstand impacts or structural stresses, they can be much thinner and therefore much lighter. The result is a structure that weighs less but requires more assembly steps, more parts involved in the process, and a slightly more complex production line than that of a fully integrated casting. The difference between the two approaches, therefore, is not simple to resolve. One saves on the assembly line but spends more on materials and carries more weight. The other saves on weight and raw aluminum, but pays back for this gain in manufacturing complexity and more labor hours per vehicle. Neither is universally better. The right choice depends on what you want to prioritize, and in a high-end car with more comfortable margins, the two approaches can coexist without major problems. But when the goal is to build the cheapest possible electric car without sacrificing structure and safety, this decision becomes much more important than it seems. The battery in an electric car is not just another component inside the vehicle. It's the heart of the system and also the biggest expense in the manufacturing budget. Today, the battery pack of a mid-size electric car can represent between 30 and 40% of the total cost of building the vehicle. In concrete numbers, this means that the battery alone can cost between $8,000 and $10,000 within the production price of a single car. To get a sense of what this represents, consider that in a traditional combustion engine vehicle, the engine, transmission, and the entire propulsion system together rarely reach that value. In an electric car, the battery alone already occupies that space in the budget even before thinking about the body, interior, or electronics. And it is precisely here that the weight of the structure ceases to be a matter of engineering and becomes a matter of money. Every additional kilogram that the vehicle carries needs to be moved by the battery for every kilometer traveled. More mass in motion requires more energy. More energy required means that, to maintain the same advertised range, the battery pack needs to be larger, with more cells, more active material, more weight, and, inevitably, more cost. It's a silently self-reinforcing cycle. The car gets heavier, the battery needs to grow to compensate, the larger battery makes the car even heavier, and the cost rises with each turn of this cycle. When this reasoning is applied to the 5 to 10 kilograms separating the two types of casting discussed earlier, the impact becomes clearer. A heavier structure may require additional cells in the battery pack to ensure that the vehicle's range does not fall below what was promised in the specifications. These additional cells have material costs, assembly costs, transportation costs, and thermal management costs within the pack itself. Individually, each of these additions seems small. Added together and multiplied by hundreds of thousands of units produced per year, they translate into a significant difference in the cost per vehicle spreadsheet. But the impact of weight doesn't stop at the manufacturing stage. Lighter vehicles consume less energy per kilometer driven, improving efficiency without requiring changes to cell chemistry or investment in a new battery generation. This improved efficiency is reflected in the range figures released by regulatory bodies, which are a key factor in purchase decisions for those considering switching to an electric vehicle. Furthermore, a more efficient vehicle means lower recharging costs for the owner over the years, directly impacting the perceived value of the product in the long term. There's a simple mathematical exercise that helps explain why small savings on the assembly line have a disproportionate impact when production operates on a large scale. Imagine that a change in the manufacturing process saves just 5 minutes per vehicle. 5 minutes seems like almost nothing. It's less time than it takes to drink a coffee. But when that saving is applied to 500,000 cars produced in a single year, those 5 minutes translate into more than 40,000 hours of work eliminated from the operation. 40,000 hours that don't need to be paid for, that don't require energy, that don't require equipment maintenance, and that don't generate the risk of failure or rework on the line. And that's just the most direct and visible calculation. Behind the eliminated working hours lies a chain of consequences that spreads throughout the entire factory operation. Fewer steps on the line mean fewer workstations occupying physical space within the factory. Fewer workstations mean fewer robots in operation. Fewer robots mean fewer maintenance contracts, fewer spare parts in stock, fewer unscheduled stoppages that interrupt the production flow, and fewer specialized technicians needed to keep everything running. Each of these elements has a fixed cost that exists regardless of how many cars are produced that day, and eliminating them has a permanent effect on the factory's cost structure. The gigacasting process addresses precisely this point. By replacing 50 or 60 welded components with a single structural piece, it not only saves the installation time of each individual part, but also eliminates all the previous steps required to get those parts to that point on the production line. Internal component transport within the factory decreases. Intermediate storage space shrinks. Quality inspection focuses on fewer critical points. The logistics of receiving parts from external suppliers is simplified. These are layers of complexity that disappear together, and whose combined cost rarely appears explicitly in any spreadsheet, but is present in every car that leaves the line. When production doubles to 1 million units per year, all these economies double along with it. The 40,000 hours eliminated for every 500,000 cars become 80,000 hours. The reduction in the number of suppliers and the volume of parts received deepens even further. And the ability to produce more vehicles in the same physical space without needing to expand the factory or hire proportionally more workers translates into a progressively lower cost per unit as volume grows. It is the basic principle of economies of scale working in its purest form, amplified by a structural change in the manufacturing method. For an electric car to reach the consumer with a price tag of $25,000, the math needs to work in a way that allows no slack. There is no room for inefficiency, no space for unnecessary processes, and no tolerance for components that could have been eliminated but weren't. And the first number that puts this equation into perspective is precisely the cost of the battery. If the battery pack consumes between $8,000 and $10,000 of the manufacturing budget and the car needs to be sold for $25,000, then everything else in the vehicle, the body, the motors, the electronics, the interior, the logistics, the labor, and the profit margin needs to fit somewhere between $15,000 and $17,000. It's an extremely tight space to build a complete car from scratch. In this scenario, every component that can be eliminated from the manufacturing process ceases to be a desirable improvement and becomes an absolute necessity. A traditional underbody, built with over 100 stamped parts and hundreds of welds, simply doesn't fit into this equation. The cost of tooling, suppliers, transportation, storage, and assembly of each of these individual parts, added together and multiplied by the production scale necessary to make the final price viable, exceeds what the budget allows. It's not a matter of preference or engineering philosophy, it's a matter of arithmetic. The conventional structure costs more than the project can afford. This is why the gigacasting process ceases to be an interesting competitive advantage and becomes the foundation without which the project cannot stand. By replacing dozens of components with a single piece of cast aluminum, it removes an entire layer of costs from the equation that, in any other model in the line, would be absorbed by the more comfortable margin of a premium vehicle. In the context of an entry-level car, this cost layer has nowhere to go. It cannot be passed on to the consumer without destroying the price appeal that justifies the product's existence. And it cannot simply be ignored without compromising the financial viability of each unit produced. $500. It's a number that, out of context, seems modest. It's not the kind of figure that makes headlines or dominates a financial results presentation. But when that figure represents the reduction in the manufacturing cost of each unit of a vehicle produced on a scale of 1 million cars per year, the scenario changes completely. $500 less per car, multiplied by 1 million units, results in $500 million saved in a single year of production. $500 million that don't need to be recovered in the final price, that don't need to be covered by financing, and that don't need to be subsidized by any government incentive. This is the kind of economy that Gigafactory brings to the table when applied on a real scale. And it's also the kind of economy that, in practice, determines whether a car will leave the factory with a price tag of $27,000 or $24,999. To an outsider, the difference between these two numbers may seem small. But in the mass market, where the purchase decision is influenced by direct comparisons with competitors and by very well-defined psychological price limits, being below or above $25,000 can mean the difference between a product that dominates a segment and a product that remains on the margins. Price is not just a number, it's a positioning strategy. The logic connecting cost reduction at the factory to the final price at the dealership is more straightforward than it seems. Every dollar removed from production costs is a dollar that can be used in 3 different ways. It can be passed on to the consumer as a reduction in the selling price. It can be retained as profit margin to finance new projects and expansion. Or it can be a combination of both options according to the current commercial strategy. In a product launch, where the main objective is to achieve volume and market penetration, the natural tendency is to use most of these savings to push the price down, making the product irresistible to a segment of consumers who were still waiting for the right moment to make the transition to electric vehicles.